Hi, and welcome to another episode of PDA Dad UK. In this episode, I'm looking at shutdowns versus meltdowns, and I will be speaking to a friend of mine, Amanda Hall. Amanda is one of the moderators on the Facebook page I run for parents of autistic kids, and she is autistic herself, and she experiences shutdowns. So I'll hand over to Amanda to introduce herself now. So, hi, Amanda.
Hi, Duncan.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Amanda. I'm 35. I was diagnosed with autism last year.
Well, okay, so only recently. How did that come about?
Family have always wondered, but I suppose what kick-started it was I went to an appointment for something else, and the lady was double jobbing, I suppose would be the sense. She was working at the pain clinic, but she was also a mental health lady, and I don't know, she put the wrong cap on one day and suggested I went off and got tested, and well, here we are a year and a bit later.
Has it had a big impact on your life knowing, or was it something that you'd always suspected? Or
It didn't completely shock me, and I suppose it was nice to give myself understanding for being the way I was, if that makes sense.
It does, yes.
All was slightly different. I just didn't know why.
So what is an autistic shutdown? Basically, they're related to meltdowns. If you liken it to a coin with two sides of the coin, the same inputs and anxieties and stresses that lead to a meltdown can lead to a shutdown. And it's really an internal meltdown, as Amanda explains. Do you yourself experience shutdowns?
I can experience shutdowns. I suppose everybody's shutdown's different, but yes, no, I tend to experience shutdowns more than, I suppose, a classic meltdown, or I can have, I call them mini meltdowns. I'm not sure that's an actual thing that can lead to a complete shutdown, so to speak.
Okay, I'll break that down a bit. What's the difference between a shutdown and a meltdown?
Oh, it's basically a bit like an internal meltdown, basically. Rather than sort of expressing it outwards, you're kind of shutting down and having an inner argument, so to speak.
How does it affect you? What does a shutdown feel like for you?
Depending on the severity of the shutdown, it can range from just sort of zoning out to actually not being able to do simple things like talk. I don't know, plan motor skills, plan things out, or just completely shut down.
So there are different types of shutdowns that can be experienced, and the way that a person reacts can be different within a shutdown. So we've already explained that a shutdown is an internal meltdown. So when things are becoming over anxious or stressful, or you're in an environment that's causing issues for your son, daughter, yourself, whatever the case may be, it can lead to that shutdown. But shutdowns can vary. Amanda herself experiences different types of shutdowns depending on a situation or just how her body's brain is responding to a particular impetus or anxiety or stressor. She explains here. Okay, so I mean, would you liken it to, is it like a paralysis for you? Is it just you just simply go inside yourself a little bit? How does it feel for you?
Yeah, it can be both, depending on how severe it is. But some shutdowns can be very paralysing, yes.
Okay, so you literally can't move?
With some of them, no, I can't. It's literally, although your brain's there, it kind of switches off to everything else.
Okay, but you're saying there are times that you can still move, but you're still in shutdown. How does that work?
I can have shutdowns where I'd been aware that I'm shut down, but I'm just, I don't know, zoned out. And I can have a type of shutdown of literally switched off and wouldn't necessarily realise, and it'd take family members to point it out, but at that, there's still not much they can do. unfortunately, you kind of have to let it ride out, so to speak, and just let me know that they're there for me, basically.
Do you remember what's going on while you're in a shutdown?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, depending on how I am. Not always.
Okay, so there are times that you can remember what's occurred, and there are times that it's just a complete blank.
Yes.
Are you aware it's happened when it's like that? Do you come out of it and you go, "Oh, I was in a shutdown," or is it just something you sort of, it's like waking up in a way?
I'm not always aware of it, and for me, I can be extraordinarily exhausted and tired after it, which I know sounds strange because you're shut down as it is, but shutdowns are tiring.
So it actually has a physical impact on how you feel.
And a nod afterwards, basically.
How long does that take to recover from?
Can be anything from an afternoon to a couple of days to properly recover.
Wow. How does it? Is it literally just being exhausted, or do you find yourself? Does your processing adjust?
Exhaustion. I'd be in bed. You wouldn't get much out of me. Literally have to reboot.
So it's sort of like almost like a computer. But rather than being an instant sort of reboot, it takes a while for the brain to get back into normal functioning, I guess.
No, well, I was taught a good analogy once. A bit like a cash machine. Obviously, if you constantly withdraw, i.e. do activities that stress you out, and you get to the point 0, computer says, no, you're not getting anything out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as you go on and you learn to do things that relax you, that you enjoy, hence making a deposit into the bank so that you don't get to that point of shutdown, I'm not available, sort of.
So to expand on that, the cash machine is a really good analogy that really does explain what's going on, and it explains both for meltdowns and for shutdowns what's taking place. And the idea is that we all have, I guess, an emotional cash machine, and we can make withdrawals on it all the time. So we go in and it's like a cash machine, we can take money out, take money out, take money out. But there's only so much bank balance that you've got to work with. And once you've hit your balance, it's going to shut down. Nope, no more. And that will lead to a meltdown or a shutdown. So basically, what you can do is look for ways that you can be contributing to your bank balance, emotional bank balance, by putting things in that are helpful. So you're saying about that, what sort of things do you do to put money in, so to speak?
Well, I love my special interest / obsession was probably be doggy related animals. So
I can see one at your shoulder.
I kind of course stim.
What sort of stims do you do?
Not necessarily the best. I like to chew things, which is probably unusual in an adult, but I enjoy chewing. Sometimes on things that I should chew, and sometimes on things I shouldn't.
How do you do that? Do you have like chew necklaces or anything like that?
I have chew necklaces, but don't always have them on me. I probably should do. It's not uncommon to see me biting on something that isn't chewy related, like a pen or plastic of some sort, which is not necessarily a good thing to be doing, but it calms me down.
How is it a really noticeable difference when you're stimming? The difference between when you're not stimming to moving into a stim, do you really notice the difference in yourself?
Sometimes I'd realise I'm stimming, sometimes I wouldn't. I don't know, my stims have changed over a while, but I'd say that's my most common one. And another one that irritates others a lot is tapping my foot. I don't always realise I'm doing that either.
I do that and I don't realise. I usually get a bash from the wife. You're doing it again. Yeah. So there are things you can do as a parent to help avoid shutdowns, and also to act as warning signs to see when a shutdown or a meltdown is coming. Do you structure these activities into your day? Like you were talking about your dog your special interest there?
Have a routine in my day, but life gets in the way, as you probably well know, and not everything goes to plan, which isn't always great. But yes, I have a very strict routine that I like to keep to.
How does that help with keeping putting that money into the bank, so to speak, using that analogy with the cash machine?
I don't know. The problem with dogs is you can't shut me up. I've quite happily sit there and talk away about things you probably don't need to know about dogs.
Okay. So, what can someone, if you go into shutdown as somebody on the outside, so you're saying family members, become aware, what can they do to make it easier for you at the time or to help you in that process? Or is it just a case of don't touch, leave alone?
Well, yes, leave her be unless they can figure out what's triggered me. For example, it's uncommon. It tends to be more stress related than sensory related. If it is sensory related and they're aware of some of my sensory issues and they may realise what's set me off, they will try and remove whatever the issue is, but it's not always possible. Sometimes you can just let me know that they're there and hopefully work through it, basically.
So I'm thinking for parents who may have kids who go into shutdown, sort of looking at ways that they can help in that situation, and so just being sort of calm and, hey, I'm here, but lead them to it, or should it be something you do try and bring them out of?
Let them know that you're there. I know that it seems an odd thing to say with a shutdown in comparison to a meltdown, but if there's anything that can make it worse around the person, then do try to remove the issue. But as I say, that's not always possible.
Do you get any triggers for it? Do you know when you're going to go into a shutdown? Is there any sort of warning signs that you pick up on?
I don't know. I am a very sensitive type person, but unfortunately, my trigger is when things don't go to plan.
Yeah.
Basically. So I suppose lack of routine is my trigger. I love my routine, basically. That's what tends to send me over the edge most of the time.
That's I am getting the anxiety up.
As I learn and as I get older.
So basically, to conclude, and we'll sum up basically everything that we've sort of discussed here. Shutdowns and meltdowns are very, very closely related. They're basically two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got the classic meltdown. So that's an explosive response to stress, anxiety, whatever the triggers are for a meltdown. That's what it is. It's an explosive response. For a shutdown, it's an internalization. It's the other side of the coin. So rather than being explosive, like a bomb would explode, it implodes, it goes within, and the person shuts down. Shutdowns can take different forms. Sometimes it is just simply becoming more vacant and more staring into space and basically shutting things out. A lot of kids will try and cover themselves. Sensory areas, if you've got a kid that's experiencing shutdowns and meltdowns, sensory areas like a sensory tent can be a really good thing. It shuts out the world and allows them to calm within themselves. For my daughter, that doesn't work so well. We try and get her on the trampoline and jump it away, or I've got a boxing bag at the back and she can have a bash on that if she wants something that's going to help to put money back in the bank. So going back to that cash machine analogy, finding those things that allow them to get an emotional reservoir which they can then withdraw from. Because what basically a shutdown or a meltdown is when there's no more to give, that's when you get that explosive reaction. Or with the case of a shutdown, an implosive reaction. Other ways that they can display shutdowns, it can be a complete shutdown, as Amanda was saying. You can get a point where they physically can't move. She might in her brain be trying to say, move your arm, but the body just won't respond. But it's the same thing. So from the perspective of the person experiencing it, is the shutdown, it's an internalization. The way it's displaying itself is just slightly different. Meltdowns and shutdowns can both be exhausting. I know when my daughter's had a massive meltdown, she can be exhausted after it. She'll often need to sleep, and she'll go to sleep very quickly overnight that she's had a bad meltdown. Same with a shutdown. It's a mental exhaustion. So basically all those things that the brain's been processing and coping with and trying to keep a lid on, it is emotionally exhausting, and so it needs to be worked through emotionally, and that's part of what goes on. Amanda said it can take her a couple of days to recover from a shutdown, to get back to being her normal self. So there are things that you can do. So for some kids it might be that they need to know that you're there, putting an arm around and having a cuddle. For someone like Amanda, she doesn't like being touched, so it's just being able to leave her with a space. Do make sure they're safe. If you're in a crowded space, obviously you want to get them somewhere where they're not going to be at risk themselves. Some people, when coming out of a shutdown, or if they're challenged within a shutdown, can become explosive. It can become an instant meltdown. So you need to be aware that that's a possibility as well. Get them out of a situation that is creating a shutdown or a meltdown. So if you're in a crowded area and it's all lights, and Christmas is a nightmare for us because everything's lights and noise and a different vibe in the air. And so trying to avoid shopping centres and crowded places is really good then. But if we're in a situation where we have to be there and we see the triggers coming, we see the signs that a meltdown is coming, and it's the same for a shutdown, get them out of that situation. Look for those triggers, look for those signs, and then you'll be able to act in a way that helps your child to avoid going into meltdown or into shutdown. Looking for ways to keep putting those emotional deposits in so they've got more to draw out, and then hopefully won't lead into a meltdown or shutdown. Be there, keep them safe, let them know you love them, and I think that's the biggest key that we can always take away from any of these lessons. Is love is where it's all at. If a child, any person knows they are loved and knows they have a safe place in you, they are going to be better off. They are always going to be better off. That's it for this episode. Please do comment, and I'd love to hear from any of you autistic people who are watching this and experience shutdowns in particular, how it is for you, how you experience it, what your triggers are, how you respond, what people can do to help you when you're in that situation, which they can then maybe apply to their own situation and their own children. Please do like this, please do share it, please do subscribe to the channel. I don't make any money from this. It's purely that the more people that subscribe and like and comment and interact with this, the bigger a boost it gets on YouTube, and more people will be able to see it in their searches and so forth. So please do click on those buttons, and I will see you for the next episode. Bye.